All right. Uh,
Hey, my bad
All
about
right.
that.
I know it's funny. As soon as yours overheated, mine died.
Oh, okay. It was a technical difficulty.
Yep.
Let me see. Let me turn the comments off. All right. So, uh, do you mind if we start over?
Oh no, the whole thing, or
Uh, yeah. Just we'll touch on some of the stuff that
oh,
we
that's fine.
previously. Okay, cool. All right. So, introduce yourself, Kelly Pavlick.
Kelly Pavlick, former three-time middleweight champ from Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay. And let's talk about let's talk about your podcast. Let's talk about your podcast. So your partner is what's his name?
James Dominguez.
James Dominguez,
Yeah.
and he is cousins with Fernando Vargas.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. And James, he had a pretty good amateur career too. I mean, he was a three-time national champion, and fought international and everything else, and then he fought for the Army team too. So
okay,
yeah.
okay. And so how'd you two link up? How'd you meet each other?
So I was training out in Oxnard, California, and he was like I said, I became good friends with Romo, who was he worked alongside Cecilio Flores, who was my strength and conditioning coach, and James was out there. He was still I believe he was still in the military, and then James ended up moving back to Columbus. His wife and kids were from Columbus, and that's where he ended up staying. And then James just finally ended up moving up to Youngstown, and that's when we kind of decided just to do the podcast. Because I mean, we talk, almost every night on boxing. So
Got you. So just for the record, is there going to be a return to boxing?
no, um, we talked about that a little while ago, but no, that Joe Rogan show was a big part of it. We got on there and the question came out, and at the time when I was doing it, I did have the itch. What's funny about with the Joe Rogan podcast is he don't give you no idea of what you guys are going to talk about. So, when he hit me with that, I was kind of just like stunned by it. So, the only answer was, yeah, I got the itch, but there was no coming back. Like I said, I was out at that time. It would have been 7 years. 37 years old. That's a long time. A lot of guys that are 22 and take just a year or two, sometimes they have a hard time picking that back up.
Gotcha. How'd you land that show? Did they get in contact with you?
Yeah, actually, my PR woman from for the podcast show, they reached out to her, and then Joe Rogan was doing a show in Columbus, and she was like, she talked to his secretary or whoever, and they were like, "Well, have Kelly come down to the show." So we went down there, and I was sitting up in the like 30th row. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, nothing's gonna come of this." And then, but we got to go backstage and meet him, and then once we did that, he would talk with us. We went and got something to eat after, and then I came home, and he sent me a text right before Christmas. Asked me if I wanted to be on in January. I said yeah. So it was pretty cool.
That's what's up. Who does your PR for you?
Amy Green. So she
Is she
works
out
with
of?
a handful. She's out of Oklahoma, and
Okay,
she's very close to the our Texas border. But she works with a lot of the fighters and guys like that. So you got
got
to
you,
kind of keep this in the people that are involved, with the sport and everything. So
got you. So leaving Jack Lowe. Do you when the separation occurred between you and Jack Lowe, you didn't go public, but he did. He said stuff like, "I wish him the best. We have fond memories and things of that nature," and spoke on not being able to control you outside of the ring. How did that make you feel? And what exactly was Jack talking about when he said that?
again, I think at that period of time, everybody was hot. Um, I didn't say anything because there was nothing to say. There was a business thing where I had no call in that or no. no voice. You know what I mean? My bosses told me I had to do something. I had to do it. With that being said, you know, as I mentioned earlier to you, yeah, there was a couple fights in between when I got hurt or in between camps where I went out and had a little too much fun. You know what I mean? Again, innocent, petty stuff. But I lived. I didn't look at myself as a big time, you know, world champion. I was somebody who wanted to be me. As far as affecting my training, again, I mean, it would have to be crazy to say it did because I was one of the most in shape middleweights of all time. You know, I averaged high 80s to 90 punches around. My whole thing was wearing down my guys because of my conditioning. You don't get that by not training hard, you know, and doing what you're supposed to do. So, with that being said, I think, you know, a lot of what we were talking a little bit about the fight that was supposed to be in Youngstown at that time and the stuff leading up to it. And the fact that not getting a fight contract. And when I say this, I'm saying it where I'm not going to start anything because I'm over it and past it. But, you know, we're up to about 2 weeks out from the fight when I got the fight contract. And it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And then there was other stipulations involved in that contract for after that fight. And it just wasn't right. So, you know, I canceled it. Top Rank wasn't happy about it, but they weren't just as unhappy with me as they were with the whole situation. The big issue a lot of times with camps is nobody knows what's really going on. One guy from the camp is doing one thing, promotional company might be doing another, agent might be saying something else. Nobody's ever really getting the truth. You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the situations where it was messed up, and me, the fighter, was the one that was going to pay at the end of the day. So with that being said, also, it's supposed to be a 8-week training camp. Well, as the weeks got closer to the fight, I wasn't going to run. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do because I knew I was going to cancel the fight. You know, not having a fight contract. In my opinion, what was happening was they knew what I was getting paid and what was going on, that there was a good chance that I was going to cancel. So figuring by giving me the contract 2 weeks before the fight, that I would feel that I'm pressured to still take the fight and I can't pull out because it's last minute. And I did. You know what I mean? That was the situation. And to this day, I stand by it. That's what I was fed the entire time because why else would I have gotten the fight contract that close to a fight? You know,
Right. And
in my hometown.
That was Jack Lowe that did that?
Jack was co-promoting from what I'm getting, you know, from what I was told by some of the guys at Top Rank. And again, Jack knows this as much as anybody else. Top Rank will tell one person something, tell another person something, and that was kind of the thing. And they're great promoters, but, you know, shit like that happens. There's nothing you can do. It's the business part of it. But, yeah, so, I mean, I don't know the whole story behind it, but I just know the fact that what I was getting, you know. I know the fact that I was a month out from the fight and I didn't have a fight contract, you know.
Right.
I know, and I know from the previous fights that 2 weeks in the camp, I had a fight contract. This time I didn't. So, and I know why they didn't because the final, I got the fight contract, and it was not a lot of money. And then again, as I said, they wanted me to go to Canada to fight the world champion after that fight for an amount that I made a lot more against a guy like Gary Lockett. So, and they could throw in, you know, well, you're not in a situation you were when you fought Gary Lockett, but you know that wasn't realistic either. So,
Got you. Now, you beat Jermaine Taylor to be unified champ. What was that feeling like on your way back home? You got 3 belts.
Yeah,
You're on your way back home, and it's like you've been training since 9 years old.
Yeah.
And now it's like climbing a mountain. Then once you get to the top of the mountain, it's like, what's next? You know, so once you got the 3 belts, how did you feel? Did you feel like what's next for you? Like where do I go now?
Yeah, you know what? That's another really good question. And I've been the last couple of telling it, you know, the truth and how it is. I won the world title, and even before winning it, I never planned on being in the sport long. It's not a longevity sport. I was actually just, you know, I was more of the business guy, and they're just counting down the big fights or the big money fights instead of the big fights. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, some guys, for instance, Hopkins, who unbelievable fighter and athlete, and he took care of himself to be able to fight till 50 years old. Some guys go till they're 60 if they could, and some guys like Robert Garcia or me, and even so much like a Mancini, you know, we've all retired fairly young. Robert Garcia retired at 29. So for me, it was more so counting down. You know, it was a long road to get to that title fight. You know, a lot of guys that came up out of the amateurs the same year I was already getting title shots in 2005. You know, mine was 2007. And it was frustrating, and I was knocking everybody out. I mean, I got to a point where I was 14-0 with 14 knockouts. So it was tough, and it was stressful because in boxing, you never know. You know, the window's small, and you never know what could happen. And a loss as a prospect coming up, it could set you back a lot. And so for me, you know, it was just that whole time leading up to it. I got the title fight. To say I wasn't taking fight serious, no, I was. But my big thing was I never planned on being in the sport long. So after the Taylor fight, it was kind of counting down, picking and choosing, you know, the big fights. And again, I fought Taylor the rematch. So I knew that was going to be a good payday, you know, and I had that guarantee because I won. Then after that,
you didn't put the belts on the line when you in the rematch.
No, that was Jermaine's doing though, because Jermaine was having a hard time making 160, and I think he was moving up to 68 no matter what after that fight. So when you fight the champion, that's their stipulations in the clause, the contract. You know what I mean? Not mine. I don't have a say in the contract. So Jermaine put the rematch at a catchweight.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, he put it at 64, I believe. So we fought that. I had no problem with it. You know what I mean? To me, it was actually an advantage because just say he beat me the second fight, I still got to hold on to the titles. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it would have worked good for me. But then I went into the fight after that with Gary Lockett. That was kind of an easy fight. You know what I mean? And it was because I just came off of fighting Edison Miranda, who at the time was like the monster of the division. He was knocking everybody out. And then I fought Jermaine Taylor twice. So I had that fight with him, with Gary Lockett. And then, as I was saying, you know, I was wanting to get the big fights. Gary Lockett was a good payday for an easy fight. But the next one was we were supposed to fight Paul Williams. To me, I would have loved it. Paul Williams was a great fighter, but he was a smaller guy, taller than me, but coming up from 147. And not a big puncher. He was just more of a throw a lot of punches type guy. Well, that benefited me because I threw a lot of punches, and I was a naturally, you know, bigger guy and hit hard. Unfortunately, that fight between both promoters, his promoter and my promoter, which usually happens in boxing, the fighters always get the blame for ducking and pulling out of fights, and it's usually the promoters. You know, something falls through or something ain't right. So whatever happened, that fight didn't come about, and a lot of people were upset. So the next best option out there was Bernard Hopkins, 2 weight classes above. And I felt that I had to take that fight to, you know, please the fans and not, you know, start getting beat up. And we did. That was the fight we took. And it was a big fight, a good payday. And, again, those were the fights that I was looking for. And unfortunately, though, it was against Hopkins.
Yeah, I remember watching that fight. I remember seeing that fight. Actually, it was at Inner Circle Pizza. You were sponsored by Inner Circle Pizza, right?
No, I got.
Were they a sponsor of yours?
No, I was BW3s.
BW3. Oh, right.
I had Affliction and BW3s. So
okay.
Yeah, gotcha. People make jokes about that.
hold on. What did you say they make jokes about?
Oh, about the BW3's, you know, endorsement.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, what do they say?
Oh, no, because, you know, it's a pub. So, you know, like 2010, 11, yeah. It was. Yeah. I shrugged it off. You know what I mean?
You're sober now, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been sober? And what was your steps? Like what'd you do to get there? Did you go seek help, or did you just say I don't want to go down this road anymore?
No, to be honest with you, it's been a little over 4 years now. And the last time, I think it was that BB gun incident. You know, and I say it's kind of sad to say it. I mean, the big news about the BB gun, but it was a BB gun with a buddy. And after that, though, I just, you know, it was enough. Just too many of the stupid things. Again, like I said, I'm not justifying it, but it's real reality. You know, they were petty shit that happened, and if it wasn't Youngstown, it wouldn't have been news, or if I didn't have a name. But it was just too many one after another. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't have got better. You know what I mean? It was just only going to get worse. And so it was time for me to pull my head out of my ass and, you know, get back on the straight and narrow and just, and like I said, get involved back into boxing. I was fortunate with everything that I had in my career where I was able to, you know, invest into gyms and things like that and do that now. So, and you know, like I said, do the podcast, have fun with that podcast, be involved in boxing again. Hopefully open up a boxing gym here soon. That's what I want to do now.
Now, do you with that BB gun incident, the guy he was doing some type of landscape for you, digging a pond or something, and would you just shot him with a pellet gun?
Hey,
just
listen,
looking around.
And I love these type of interviews, and you know, I think you're from Youngstown, ain't you?
I'm from Warren. My wife is from Youngstown.
Yeah, so you kind of know. It's pretty much the same. I don't ever say nothing when all the things happen because, you know, I feel like the more I drag it out, the more ink there is. You know what I mean? If I was to fight back or say my side of it, the more print in the paper. And so I just always stay quiet on it and just let it be what it was. Believe me, I had arguments for the cab or the four-wheeler. This was a situation where this guy, I was taking care of him and his kids. Okay? He was, and I didn't know he was in trouble or anything. I just thought I knew him. He wasn't a good friend, but I'd known him for a while and whatnot. And I was deciding to do this thing in my backyard. And he was a guy that knew how to do it. And he was like, hey, listen, help me out and I'll do this for you. So I paid him for it. I took care of him very well. I had his kids came over, swim. I'd feed them every day. Long story short, I got blamed on a Joe Rogan show for this, but people don't understand the story behind it. Harry had a warrant out for his arrest or something. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that. And, you know, this is at the time where we were still having fun at my house. People were drinking, everything else. And he was a big drinker. And so every morning as he got comfortable in the house, he'd stay at my house, all that crap. And he'd wake up, drink wild turkey. You know what I mean? And then go out an hour or two later and work. Well, one day I came home and he was there and he was in my pond half naked, whatnot. You can see it on YouTube. And I take the BB gun, we're joking around, and I shot him in the arm. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to really hit him either. I was trying to scare him. I probably shouldn't have had the BB gun on me, but I hit him in the arm. Long story short, that's all you see on the video, but he stays at my house for 2 days after that. Laughs about it, posts all over the place, you know, telling everybody about getting shot in the arm. It was all funny. Well, the next day, his uncle was a sheriff, I guess. His uncle comes to my house, says, hey, is Brian here? I got word that Brian's here. I said, I don't know. I was like, I haven't seen him, knowing that he's there. He goes, listen, he goes, Kel, I don't want you to get in trouble. He's like, because if he's here and we come back, he's like, then we got to bring 3 or 4 people in. We got to bring the news stations. So I'm like, shit, all right, I don't need that right now. So I go and I tell him, hey, Brian, you got to go, man. I didn't know you have a warrant out, this, that. I'm going to get in trouble. Again, mind you, this is already 7 days after taking care of him and helping him out. The least he could have done was say, okay, I'll leave so you don't get in trouble. So 2 hours goes by. He's partying, having fun, falls asleep on my couch. I wake him up. He starts kind of getting loud with me saying, I'm not leaving. So what do? I call his uncle and tell him, hey, he's here. You know what I mean? People said I was ratting, but, you know, people don't realize that my situation, I got in trouble for everything. That's all I needed was to be harboring a guy like that.
Harboring a fugitive.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd have been on CNN.
Yeah,
you'd have been on CNN for that.
He was on, yeah, and he's up for, it was a federal crime.
Oh, so, wow.
You know, I've taken care of this guy. It was just the fact for 7 days, his kids, everything, and then he was trying to get me in trouble. So I told him, because I didn't need them coming back. Or if they came back and I wasn't there and he was there, I still get in trouble for it. So that was the incident, man. And that's the type of shit. That's it, you know?
So he was a real scumbag for that, but I see why you don't discuss the situation, because it just drags it out even further. But I mean, I feel like you should you should you should clear your name because a lot of the things. I know a guy that was down there in McKinley Heights with the whole Foo Fighter thing. They said that you was just horse playing with some friends, and then the
Yeah,
police took it too serious.
yeah. It was a concert that I had backstage passes. The last minute, I told my buddy, I was like, "Let's get out of here," because what would have started happening was, and I seen this all the time. People would have started coming up to me saying, "Hey, can you get me backstage to meet so and so?" So I kind of wanted to leave, so we did, and we go out, and it was in a plaza. Okay,
Yeah,
CD, a warehouse, back doors open. So we're listening to the songs, we're bouncing around, like almost like a mosh pit, but just playing around. And the fight, we're like hitting each other. A cop comes over, don't arrest my friend, but just puts me in cuffs, puts me in a car. Again, not playing victim. It's just what it is. And again, if that happened, I wouldn't even have cared. But it's the fact that when it hits the paper, the media, and all that, and then it's just the repetitive thing that keeps happening, and it gives people reason to talk. You know what I mean? And it gives reason, even though it was just a shoving, dancing type thing that we were doing. And my buddy even asked the cop. He goes, "Well, why? How come you don't have me in handcuffs?" And he goes, "You just
yeah,
stand there. You stand back." Mind you, there was people drinking 40s in the parking lot and I'm sure there was other stuff going on. I didn't point it out. I did my thing. I sat in the car because, again, if I say anything or if I argue it or if I fight it, it just drags out longer. And
right.
it's not.
What happened with the cab? What happened with the cab driver?
It's another one. And I swear, I know people that are, if they're listening, will be like, "Oh, never him." And again, it was my. A lot of that is my fault for putting myself in them situations. You know what I mean? Again, if I wasn't out and about, they wouldn't have happened. But the cab was one where I was out and I called a cab home. I don't drive. I didn't do that when I was out. So I had the cab come get me. Long story short, it was an 11-minute drive. It was that A cab or AA cab. They take me home. It takes 30 minutes to get me home. All over the place. At one point, I actually asked the guy if I could drive. They had if people know who they were that owned it. They had some problems. Long story short, I put a 20 on the back seat. I get out and he's like, "Oh, I go, what's the fare?" He's like, $35. I know it wasn't $35, and he was charging me for the 33 minutes for an 11-minute drive. And next thing I know, I didn't think anything of it. I went in the house. The next morning, I get a phone call that they called the cops and said that I didn't pay him, and I stiffed him over on the bill when the money was sitting there. So I wonder if they ever even let the cops know that they got the 25. And that's what the standard fare is for the cab. I would have known because I used it. You know what I mean?
Right. Wow. So, do you think being a celebrity and being in Youngstown metro area, is that a hindrance to your life?
Depending on how you know what I mean. I guess the way, like I said, is I always want to just be me. You know what I mean? I didn't care about being a top guy or anything like that. I just liked having fun. It was funny, I played darts, and actually it was a countdown to the Jermaine Taylor fight. If you watch that, like, everybody's like, "Oh, Kelly's just one of us." He comes and he plays darts and does this, does that. And after I won the world title, that's when all the chirping started happening, And so it's kind of like the better you do, the less you can do, And I go back on it and I harp on it. Again, it's kind of my fault. I knew the situation. You see a lot of guys. You don't hear about LeBron because LeBron carries himself and he puts himself in great situations, and that's he's out there all the time with the youth and helping out and charities. And I do a lot of shitload of charities myself, and especially in Youngstown. I just keep it under the radar, but that's the route that you got to take. When you're supposed to be a role model, that's what you're supposed to do. Me, I didn't, and I put myself out there for the criticism. And again, they were small, petty things, but for things that happen too.
Gotcha.
It is what it is. And for me, my only thing I can do is go out and consult young athletes and young kids coming up and give them those things to look out for. You know what I mean? As a guy that was in that position, that's what I would like to eventually do one day.
Now, like, can you go to Rulli Brothers or Sparkles, the grocery store? Can you go to the grocery store and not have to sign an autograph or not get pictures taken of you?
Man, listen, I think I already touched everybody who wanted an autograph. You know what I mean? Being here. No, listen, dude, going back to it, I go to the store almost every day. You know what I mean? I don't care. I don't want to carry that like, oh, I don't go to the grocery store. I'm too good for that. I'll go. I like cooking, so I'll go get me what I want to cook. I'm out. You know what I mean? It's I'm just like everybody else, really. You know, I just did good at my sport. But other than that, you know, I don't sit back.
Let's talk Boom Boom Mancini. It's rumored that earlier in your career he wanted to manage you,
Yeah.
and you kind of shied away from it. You didn't want to do that. Let's talk about that.
Oh, at that point, coming up, I had Lou Duva, who at the time was a big-time promoter with main events. I had Top Rank. Sugar Ray Leonard had a little promotional company that he was doing. And then there was Mancini, who I think managing and somewhat of promoting. Mancini wasn't a promoter. You know what I mean? Mancini was an ex-fighter. Promoting's hard, no matter who you are. You know, Mayweather made he has a great promotional company now, but Mayweather made mega dollars.
Right.
It's hard to start up and do promotionals. So I ended up going with them. Mancini sent a contract over. It was, you know, I gave it to people that looked at contracts, and I would have been crazy to sign that. And again, I had Top Rank. If I wasn't as good at coming out of the amateurs, and I didn't have people, then I would have probably went with Mancini. You know. But at that time, the contract was crazy, and we went with them. So that was kind of like, I don't know if he had bad blood over that from that point on or not, but it is what it is, you know.
Do you keep in contact with him to this day? Do you talk to him?
Yeah, I seen him at the Mikey Garcia Earl Spence fight, and
That was in Vegas.
Yeah, or that was in Dallas.
Dallas,
yeah.
right.
And the Fox, you know, covered that, and he was commentating. And I was actually talking with Sean Porter from Akron, and me and Sean came up together. And I was a little older than Sean, and we always traveled together to the tournament and everything. And yeah, I see Mancini. I talked to him a little bit, so we're cool. You know, I mean, there's the mutual respect. You know, I don't think we want to get into pointing finger at each other or anything like that.
Right. It's just two champions from Youngstown. You know, it's good that you guys get along. What would you change, if anything, from the beginning to now?
You know, man, not much. Going back on that, even when we got to the retirement thing, and I was saying that I wanted to retire, and I did. People forget. I think a lot of people have seen that my career started in 2007 when I won the title. But I think they forget that, you know, it was 20 years ago. What's the date today? 10th or 14th?
Today's the 10th.
10th. So in 6 days from now, we'll mark 20 years ago I turned pro. You know what I mean? That was my pro debut, June 16th. So I have 42 pro fights. That's a lot, man. I was a pro almost 13 years. That's not including all the 100 amateur fights that I had. So, you know, it was a great career to finish 40-2. I lost to 2 Hall of Famers. I beat great fighters, you know, and I beat guys. Rubio ended up going on after I beat him in Youngstown to win a world title. You know,
right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was, you know, a great run. I knocked guys out that wasn't supposed to get knocked out. You know, so I have nothing to say. I mean, some of the fights, the Sergio Martinez fight, hard making weight. To this day, do I think maybe just coming in a pound and a half over, stripped me of the belts because that was my last fight at super middleweight anyways. And, you know, that's a totally different situation there. I don't know. But I know if I would have came in a pound and a half and beat Martinez, I wouldn't have got the credit for it, and I would have took a beating for it. So
Uh,
overall, I mean, like I'm honestly, I'm content. If not, you would have seen me come back 2 years later after retiring. You would have seen me fight in 2014 or 15.
do
So
you what do you feel about Tyson coming back? Somebody just sent a message in it. What do you feel like Tyson coming back, or is he just talking shit?
man, Tyson, and it's hard for me to say this because Tyson's like my favorite fighter of all time.
Mine
You know,
too.
when he lost to Douglas, I was 8 years old, 7 or 8. I mean, I cried. I cried for the entire night. With that being said, I don't want to see it.
Mhm.
I don't know if people are getting it mixed up though. I don't know if they think that he's coming back to fight. I truly still don't know yet if he's coming back to fight real fights, or if he's coming back because I keep seeing a charitable event, an
Right.
exhibition. The MMA guy, I think that's great. I think Mike Tyson probably still beats that 53 years old or 54. I think he beats that guy. Him fighting any of these top guys like Wilder or Joshua,
No, I don't want to see that.
no, you know what I mean. Especially now, the game has changed a little bit in that heavyweight division where your average guys are 6'7". You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a world of difference. Even Lewis, the tallest guy, he was 6'5". These guys now, like Wilder 6'7", and what they say Wilder 6'7". I think he's taller. Joshua 6'6.5". Fury is 6'9". It's just different. Different ball game. It's evolving differently. Tyson, he didn't do that well his last two fights 15, 16 years ago. People see the hand pad video. I think Mike Tyson, he's doing very well for himself, man. He has a hell of a business going. Mike
Yeah.
Tyson, no matter what, could always sell books, and he's just got a great story. I leave the boxing part, leave it be.
Um, you keep your championship belts at your parents' house, correct?
Yeah, I've actually removed them. I keep those in a hidden spot. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Those ain't mine. They're my kids, but they ain't going to be my kids. They're going to be their grandkids. Them
Mhm.
things are made to be handed down through all the
Gotcha.
time. So, yeah.
But I read an article saying that like before your fights, you would leave Samantha and your daughter, and then go sleep on your parents' couch, and you had your belts there.
Yeah.
Like, were those a gift to your father, Mike, or was it just?
No, he just held them. At that time, I was 24, 25, young kid. Again, the fun. But you hear it all the time with these athletes. And I was the same way, like in between fights, I have fun. I didn't keep a lot of my shit at my house. A lot of my memorabilia and stuff like that, I don't. You know what I mean? That's not for me to, keep right now. When the time comes and my kids are older, that'll be theirs and so on. I still have them, the pictures, everything else. But it was crazy, man. If I had that shit at my house, and I used to have, like, for instance, the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I ended up having 25, 30 people over. Who knows? Who knows what they would do? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's how it falls down. You hear it all the time. It's true with these athletes. Actually, as a matter of fact, Fernando Vargas, the kid we were talking about earlier, they stole his IBF belt out of his garage. Just people over watching a fight in Oxnard. It shit happens. So,
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, because they're worth money. Not what they used to be, but they are. Not in
Yeah.
UFC belts. Those are the big ones.
UFC. Who
Oh,
do you like in the UFC? Who do you like in the UFC?
you know what? To be honest with you, I'm not good at naming names. I don't follow it
Oh,
that much. I know of people because we get a lot of MMA guys on our show. I know Matt Brown, Matt the Immortal, through he's from Columbus, and my co-host James Dominguez, he's worked stand-up with him. James actually did jiu-jitsu and shit like that too for a while. So you got guys like that. You got Khabib, Sylvia, John. What's that? Jones. That dude's
John
sick.
Jones.
John
Yeah.
Jones. Yeah, that's a brutal kick. He kicked me in the leg like that. You call the ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, but I'm not honestly. I really can't. When we on the show, I don't talk on it much. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I'm talking about. So
Right. Now, have you heard of this cat James Wilson? James Wilson, they call him the next Mike Tyson. I'll send you a video of him. He's nice though, but he started off with MMA and then he came over to boxing. But he's got an abstract boxing style. He's pretty cool though. I'll send you a video when we get off of here.
Absolutely.
Um, we're oh let's talk about your scholarship program that you're trying to get you're trying to start in conjunction with your boxing gym that you're going to open.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'm doing a boxing gym right in the Youngstown area. It's going to be free for kids 18 and under. The structure of it right now, I want to set up, like I said, I'm friends with Maurice, and he does a lot of speaking engagements. Yeah, to get these kids to have structure in their life, along with the boxing, to learn boxing, to trade for a future. That's the biggest part of it right now. We have boxing gyms that are cool, and I think like Jack and Keith Burnside and a lot of guys in the area, Sammy Caldrone, they do a great job with these young fighters. But, I want to kind of like branch away from that. What we talked about earlier also, I know a lot of people may seem like I'm bringing the gym in to get back at people or anything, and that's not the case. Back in the day in Youngstown, when boxing was at its peak, you had a boxing gym everywhere. Almost on every corner you had a boxing gym. And I think that's going to be beneficial where you, instead of having to travel to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or even Akron, which ain't that far, but it gets tiring after a while, where you can just have that sparring on hand and get the kids that work. So we're doing that, and then I think we're going to move into the part of scholarships. Under a 501c3, I can't say that right now that we're doing that because, there's just a lot of stipulations with that. But that's where I want to go. I want to go with scholarships. Boxers don't get them. You have a couple collegiate boxing teams out there. That's about it. I don't even know how many scholarships goes out for that. But we know baseball, we know football and basketball at their scholarships. So my thing is going to be hopefully to get that where I can get these kids scholarships too. That's the biggest thing is structuring these guys' lives, for when they get older or when they get out there, that they got the tools to be successful and have opportunities.
Got you. Now, you grew up on South Side of Youngstown.
Yeah.
What street?
Cornell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was on right down the street from Wilson High School.
Yeah. Your parents still live there?
No, we actually just had the house up to about a year ago, and my dad sold it. So
now, who? Why'd you go to Lowville High School instead of Wilson?
My brothers graduated from Wilson, but we ended up getting out. My parents got me out because that's when they didn't know what they were going to do at Wilson either. That's when all the city at the time. That was 93, 94. So a lot of schools were closing. Nobody knew what was going to happen with the schools, if Wilson was going to be open. I believe one of the elementary schools, I went to Taft Elementary.
Okay.
But I think they closed Bennett, or they were getting ready to close Bennett, which was actually not far from my house either. So right at that point, we didn't know. And Lowville had their open enrollment, and that's when a whole bunch of the guys went over, to Lowville, and that's when they had their best football season too.
Yeah.
That year.
They got some brothers. I think one of them graduated, and two of them were maybe twins or something. Some what are they? I think maybe they're juniors or something like that. But they're nice. There were three brothers, all three of them.
Yeah.
But
I feel bad. When I went to Lowville, it was pretty much just going there, though. You know what I mean? I played baseball, but it wasn't for Lowville. I still played in Youngstown. I played Pee Wee football in Youngstown up till 12. Then I quit football after that because I was more involved in the boxing at that time. So pretty much other than going to school in Louisville and coming home was it. Even after I graduated, there was just not much for me to do in Louisville. So.
Oh, there's nothing. There's nothing in Louisville.
There ain't.
It's really a valley, right? And then they don't have a gas station. I don't think they even have any restaurants or nothing.
Yeah, they got one restaurant. Actually, a buddy of mine owns it, and I keep telling him that I'll get down to it, but that, the COVID put a damper and everything.
What's the name of that restaurant?
Carchetti's.
Carchetti's. Okay,
Yeah,
next
it
time
was
I'm
one
out
of the
there.
bigger ones down there. He just took it over. So.
Okay. Now, at one time you owned a bar. This is a funny story. You own a bar in Struthers.
Yeah.
When you owned that bar in Struthers, I was too young to even get in the bar, but you had Guy Torrey. Guy Torrey was going to be there.
Yeah, you mean or for the
Yeah.
Food Network?
No, I mean, no, the comedian,
Oh, okay, down in the
Guy
basement.
Torrey. Yeah, I was too young to even be there, and I seen the promotional flyers everywhere. I said, I'm gonna be there because I like Guy Torrey, and plus it was your thing. So I actually ended up running into Guy Torrey at the Southern Park Mall, and I didn't fan out or nothing, but I seen him, and then that night I said, yeah, I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
and I think you seen me because at the time, well, a couple years prior to, you used to spar with Zach Page.
Oh yeah, down at
Yeah,
what's his name's gym on the downtown.
PC Torres.
Yeah.
PC, yeah. So I was a kid. I was a little kid back then when you was sparring with Zach.
Yeah.
And I forget where I was going to relate it all in. But anyways, I think
the restaurant.
yeah, I think you kind of knew who I was when I went up there, and I was young. I was probably 18, 19 years old when I went in. But man, that was pretty cool. What made you want to get into the bar scene?
I'm still into it. Not so much the bar, but like the mom and pop. I think eventually
Yeah.
down the line that's going to be something I like, the food and stuff like that. At that point, it was cool. It was something I always wanted to do. Eric Ryan, who runs the Cavelli Center, he had
Okay.
that place. It was a pool hall, and he wasn't doing good with it. So I came in pretty much like a bailout. But I didn't care. You know what I mean? A lot of my people were like, hell, don't do it. Don't do it. And they could have told me crap was falling from the ceiling. I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? And it was fun. It was an experience. It was a learning experience. Location wasn't great. And it was just hard. We had too many different themes. We had the basement, which was like the comedy club, and we had bands that played down there. The middle part, we made a sports bar and put a lot into it. It was beautiful. But then the upstairs, we made it a sit-down restaurant. So now you're talking about inventory for almost like fine food. And you're talking about a bar and a pub in the middle. And then it was just too much, and it was just a hard location. People were afraid to go down to that part of Struthers. It was tough, man. And it was I should have listened, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Live and you learn, though.
Yeah. Are you thinking about doing anything downtown Youngstown or downtown Warren, possibly?
I would like to. Actually, I was looking at putting a show on in downtown over at the Packard.
At Packard Music
Yeah,
Hall?
doing an amateur show. We're still looking at that. There are two places. Or right downtown at the
Hold on, you froze up.
I'm sorry. Right now, when I do it, is either Warren or at the Packard or the Masonic Temple on Rain and Wick Avenue downtown.
Okay.
So,
Well, I believe that's closed now.
it is, but we know the
Okay.
guys, and they're trying to make some money on that. So by renting it out, to do something with it, because it's just sitting there, and I'm sure them guys are getting hit with property tax and everything else. So
Oh yeah. What was I going to ask you? We got the amphitheater also in Warren.
yeah, I do know that. Yep.
That'd be a perfect place for a summertime fight show. That'd be perfect.
That's what we're looking at. Anywhere like that. To me, I would do one of them two areas because it's first of all, Warren might even be better because it's closer to Cleveland, and you can get a lot of kids from the Cleveland teams. They have a good amount of boxing gyms in Cleveland still, or Akron. So either or. Right now, starting up, it's kind of hard because you just got to find what's the best place. You know, the amphitheater is great, but we don't know what they're going to charge, you know, or what you could do there. Alcohol and fights go.
We will talk about that.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that later.
that goes hand in hand. If you don't have that at a fight, a lot of people get mad, you know, and they probably won't.
If you don't have beer and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you got to factor into it.
I think Packer Music Hall, I think they got a liquor license. They serve beer.
Yeah, they do. So we could use them, and you can work on a split of that. You know, again, that's another big part because with the promoting of the amateurs, and I haven't done many. I only did one fight me and Jack did back in, I think, 09 or 2010. But alcohol still is the profit part. You know what I mean? So the guy putting that show on, that's what they want. The tickets, that's paying for the venue, the ring, the insurance, the gloves, this, that, you know, all the other stuff you have to have there. So.
Got you. Yeah. Because you got to pay for doctors, referee, everything.
Yeah. Paramedics, you name it. Fire, what do you call it when they come in? Zoning, I guess, like a zoning but with the fire. So, yeah, that's crazy.
And I believe at Packard you have to have so many warrant police there. Yeah,
you got to pay that. You got to pay the police. I don't know how that works truly, if there's a certain amount of police or if you could bring in a certain professional security team also. I don't know. I don't know if there still has to be a certain amount of police officers or how that works. You know, that's what we were kind of finalizing when we were going to do one downtown Youngstown. But this COVID again came and blindsided us. And we don't know what's going on now.
Right. Hey, you've been pretty vocal about the everything that's going on in the news and the rioting and stuff. What like speak your mind. Say what you feel about everything.
I'm glad you brought that up because there was a situation where it was kind of turned around. The first incident was with the Zimmerman one, and I seen that, and I commented, and that was 5 years ago. Shortly after that, I think it was a month later, Zimmerman got in some type of trouble or something, and I apologized. It was, you know, too quick for me to jump on that, and nobody kept the apology part of it, and I did. You know, it was my fault. I stupid mistake. This last one, I think it really got switched and turned around because what the cop did, I think, was horrible. Horrible. And the protesting, I absolutely 1,000% agreed with. My thing was I felt the protesting was getting lost. The message from the protest was getting lost. If you think about it, everything everybody was talking about was the rioting, the looting, and that's all I was pretty much trying to say. And I said, I forget what I said. It was, I took it the wrong way, but it wasn't directed one way. It was directed at people. I believe that there was a lot of politics involved in the rioting and looting too. You know what I mean? And I think that took away from the message that the message that was trying to get out there with the protesters. So I absolutely think 100% that cop, that they're moving it now to, I think, a second degree. I think what he did was wrong. And even the people surrounding him, you know, the other cops that were there, that's horrible, especially you have to see it on live TV.
Right. So what do you feel about the protesters? How do you feel? Should there be riots or should there be peaceful protesting? What do you feel should happen?
On that, I'm for the protest. I think this was a situation where everybody knew enough was enough. This last one, I think that people were to the point of like, this is it. Rioting, in my opinion, I felt that it took away from what happened, and that's what everybody was kind of talking about. As far as the pride, I think it's great that they protest. The peaceful protest, you see, they had it in Youngstown. I believe Warren even had some, and they went great. Yeah. And the message was there. As far as again with the rioting, I don't think they should do that. I personally don't. especially in those communities. You know, those are places that people are going to have to go to if their kids get sick or if something happens. But again, as far as protesting, there's nothing wrong with that. There should be protests. And it should be peaceful because I think the message gets out. I mean, what they did downtown Youngstown was great. And look at how the people turned out.
Right. I feel like the only way for the oppressed to get their point across, like you're dealing with oppressed people that don't have a say so, and I mean, like there's never an agenda around election time for these people. So, and then we're getting killed with impunity by the police. So the only way for the oppressed to get their point across in a capitalistic society is to disrupt finance in that jurisdiction. So that's where the riots come from. You know, that's where that comes from. We got to tear this up so these companies, these corporations, these people that put money up for laws to get made, they'll be on our side.
Yeah.
So that's where the riot part comes from. And I'm not saying that it's right, but when you're at war, you gotta put everything up.
Hey, absolutely, and I'm not arguing that either. And from my standpoint, you know, just saying where I thought on it, I thought this was a situation where I think like everybody finally was like, that's enough. You know what I mean?
It's a wrap. Yeah.
I mean that was it, and it was. I mean, everybody was infuriated with it. And I just, in my opinion, I felt like from everything I kept seeing that was getting overshadowed, though. You know what I mean? But again, there's no wrong or no right in this situation. It's hard. You know what I mean? It's a touchy subject. When I commented on it, again, I knew it could have got taken the wrong way, and I put in there what I said about, you know, agreeing with the protest. Again, you know, wording sometimes is horrible. So,
Yeah.
but you know, I go back over and over. The news don't help it, no matter which one you're watching. So it is, but I think it's an issue. And again, I think that is something that everybody's finally starting to see. I see the outcome of the peaceful protest, like in Youngstown. I seen how everybody came together. I seen on 680 that people weren't even mad that traffic was being blocked and held up. You know, because they knew the meaning behind it, and you seen that. So I think, you know, going that route, I think it just really gets everybody together even more.
Yeah. I'm just glad I had the opportunity to. I seen people jumping on you and jumping down your neck, and I remember you from when I was a child, you know, and I know that you're not that way, so I'm glad I can
you know,
be a vessel for you to get your point out.
Do something with it. I don't know if it'll go worse or not, but I'm not, you know what I mean? And again, the words I choose or how I may have worded them is horrible. Not horrible. I just worded them the wrong way. But no, I just want people to know that I'm not against the movement. I'm not against the protesting by no means. That was horrible what happened, and you know it should be justified. You know, there should be a serious penalty for that, and I think that people involved with that should also be up because there was a chance for them to stop that. You know, that should never have happened. That should never have got to that point, and that's the biggest thing that I was trying to get out of my message. But it is what it is. I'm sorry if someone took it. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I wasn't trying to offend nobody or piss nobody off. You know, I really wasn't. You know, that's all I could really do. You know.
I'm just glad I could let you clear the air, clear your name, and you know, explain.
I appreciate you giving me the chance. I really do.
Where you at, man? You at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, now you're the youngest of 3 boys?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you're the only boxer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Well, my brother Ricky boxed a little bit. My brother Michael went there. He boxed, but he never fought. My brother Ricky had a couple fights. But as far as calling them boxers, I don't know if I go that far. But yeah, they dabble. So that's too easy to give credit to some people. You know, when they had 1 or 2 amateur fights, yeah, I can't give them that credit. So
Right. Hey, so you still
At
go
that
to
point,
all the big shows?
at that point, they haven't seen much in boxing at that point to let them have that. So
Are they still? Are your brothers still local?
yeah, both of
Yeah.
them are still local. Yep.
Yeah. Do you still go to some of the big boxing shows?
I do. I actually went to the man. When was that? Right before the break, the Corona, the lockdown. When was that? I want to say February, end of February, maybe early March. I think it
Okay.
was the one on the west side of Youngstown. I went to that one. I got in a couple of jacks, so I try to attend as much as I can. Again, the young guys coming up. I like being there, watching, seeing what's going on, spotting the talent, things like that. So
Yeah. Jack has a kid named Popo, Puerto Rican cat. I've
yeah,
been watching him since he was young. That dude is nice. I've been watching
he is.
him. I first seen him at the Saxons Club on Meridian Road, and he's pretty nice.
Yeah,
He's pretty
Papo.
nice.
He had a brother Juan. Now Juan was a little older than Papo. Juan fought one fight though. And, I don't think boxing was for him. And
He
Papo, yeah,
fought that Marine. He fought a guy that was a Marine.
yeah,
And
that was a fight
yeah.
that I promoted. Me and Jack promoted. So
Oh, okay,
yeah, that was
okay.
outside.
I was actually there.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was your fight.
yep. And so yeah, he fought that one. But some guys they just don't want to fight, man. It's nothing that they don't have heart or anything like that. Boxing is a different it's a different sport, man. It's a different animal, and sometimes you got it or you don't for that. So Papo or Juan, I don't think it was cut out. Papo, on the other hand, you're talking about a kid at a lightweight that could crack and got speed. So
Yeah. Kelly, we got like 2 minutes left, and then it's gonna shut off. Do you let the people know everything you got going on, where your gym is, your podcast, what day you guys released your podcast,
yeah,
the name of it, all that.
my gym is my gym in Columbiana. I have the Punchline with Kelly Pavlick and James Dominguez. You can find that on Facebook Live or YouTube. Right now, that's pretty much it. The boxing gym, I'll keep everybody updated on that. You know what I mean? Everybody will know when that's getting ready to come about. So that's still a work in progress. So.
And are you doing the boxing gym solo, or is that something James Dominguez is gonna help you with, or you got
No,
other people?
that'll be mine. James will be there to help with training the guys, the kids and everything else. But for the most part, that's going to be my gym. So.
And is there going to be a limit on how many kids you take in?
No, the whole thing is to get the kids in, get them in there, and get them moving, get them fighting. If I have to separate times to get everybody in there at once, I'm hoping to have a big enough facility where I don't have to go too many different separations. But I would like to have all one group in. But the thing with that comes too, you don't get a lot of one-on-one time too with them at that point. So I'm thinking maybe class, depending on how many kids come in, classes of 15 at a time. Where I could give attention to each one. So.
Got you.
That's where James would come in to be able to help, where he could come in and help other groups of kids, and we could switch them around.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, well, we're down to seconds now, Kelly. Thanks for the interview. I really appreciate it. You got my contact information. If you need any leads, or you probably got more leads than me, you got more connects. What was that lady's name? The lady that plugged you with your PR lady.
Amy Green.
Amy Green. Shout out to Amy
Yeah.
Green. All right, Kelly. They're about to shut us down soon, so.
Hey, thanks you for having me on, bro. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Thanks for being on. I appreciate you.
No problem, man.